All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's still Rappy Done right here on Rappy TV. Welcome to the 9 o'clock hour, basically where we have the big conversations every single day of the week. Once again, my name is Martha Alu.
And I am Victor. Okay, welcome back.
All right. Now, the conversation for today is, I mean, anyone who has followed followed the Rapid Done for a while knows that I am very particular about this particular conversation. If you have gone house hunting in the city of Abuja or any part of Nigeria, basically, because I believe that this is the same kind of experience in different parts of Nigeria.
That's right.
As many other people have come out to say it, I always say that the social media space has made it a lot easier for people to connect around the world, which means that whatever is happening in Calabar or happening in the FCT, people who are happening in Lagos can confirm whether or not that is still happening within their environment. And I can say for a fact that in almost most of the parts of the city, major cities particularly, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Lagos State, and even in some of the other smaller cities, you know, people experience the arbitrary increase of house rent. Now, I was trying to say that if you have gone house hunting recently, you'd see that the entire housing sector, I would say, is completely messed up. Because explain to me how the person who built their house is different. The person is saying that I want to put the rent at 1 million naira, right? And then agency and legal fee 20%.
Right.
Sometimes 20% each, or 15% each, or 20%, which is the most popular, to be honest. 10% agency, 10% legal. Right after that, you move on to caution fee, which is about 500,000 to 600,000, depending on where you're staying. After the caution fee, then we move on to facility fee. For this facility fee, you have your prepaid meter. You are buying lights, your prepaid meter. You are in Baneo, you are buying lights from your prepaid meter, right? You are pumping water with your prepaid meter, but you are still paying sometimes 200 to 500,000 for facility fee. It's a crazy situation out there. And I was related to you many times where my rent was increased 100%.
Yeah.
100%. No 1 year prior notice, no 6 months prior notice. Just all of a sudden, the house rents are being increased. And this is a crazy situation. It's getting wild out there because the pressure on rental is enormous. Now, as a result of that, we see that the reps propose rent increase not more than 20%. Now, the House of Representatives, of course, decried the increase of rent in Nigeria and is calling that the increment of rent should not be more than 20%, regardless of the infrastructural change or renovation or whatever goes on there. Now, this followed a motion that was made by a member representing Calabar Municipality, the Federal Constituency, Basi Akiaba, on the need to regulate arbitrary rent increase and protect tenants from exploitation. Because at this point, it is no longer rent, it's exploitation. It's a clear case of exploitation. And the landlords tell you, if you don't want, get out of the house, someone else will rent the house. It's becoming overwhelming because a lot of people are still earning less than what the what do you call it, the minimum wage is. And I'm talking about suburbs as well. In the suburbs, people now rent houses for about 200,000 in constructed bachelor apartments that are not even supposed to be there in the first place. It is an unfortunate situation. And now that the reps have called for the motion to ensure that the rights of tenants are being protected by ensuring that these landlords don't unreasonably increase this rent, this is the conversation we're here to have today. And to have that conversation, we have a housing expert, Noah Igbenidium, who is the MD CEO of Overhead Properties. Now, he will be helping us dissect the conversation and letting us know what the implication of this to them as real estate managers and then to the tenants and generally in the housing sector. Good morning to you, Mr. Igbenidium.
Good morning. Let me can hear me. Good morning.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can
good
hear
morning.
you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All
Happy
right.
to be here.
All right. Mr. Lucky, I'm tempted to call you Lucky Igbenidium. I'm so sorry, Mr. Noah.
Noah, yeah.
All right, Mr. Noah. Let's go on to talking about the 20% proposed cap on the rent increase, because I know you are real estate agents and there are newer models of doing real estate. Every day, newer things come up. Previously, we didn't used to rent houses with furnitures or with AC, air conditions or what have you. This time around, people are starting to rent houses fully furnished, and this is the reason that we keep seeing that the house rent increases. So what's your take on the 20% cap by the house?
Okay, good morning, listeners. I have heard so many things before you got everything so well.
Mr.
I like.
Okay, yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
I,
Yeah, go on.
I thought about everything said to home before I came online.
Yeah.
I thought everything said just reality actually, and for me, the deal sponsored by the President Senator. It's a good thing, actually. It's a good thing. I love the idea of trying to carve rate to share 20%. But my own concern right now is how can it be?
So we can barely hear you. Your voice gets faint and then it increases again. Can you help us with that so that we can have a clear conversation this morning?
Okay, just give me a minute.
Okay. All right. Yes, we can hear you.
I think this is a lot better.
Yes, this is
Yeah,
a lot better. Thank you so much, Mr. Noah.
Okay, I was saying, I said it's a good idea actually, but I'm just thinking, how can this be implemented for me as a real estate stakeholder?
Exactly.
How will this be implemented? Because if you look at it, capping rents by 20% it will favor both the high income earners and the low income earners. But how can it be implemented? Because once that ban Nigeria, we know for a fact it's not about saying something from the top. How can it trickle down to somebody in Akure, in one remote area? Are you getting me?
Yeah.
Now, let's look at the big cities, for instance, the Lagos, the Abuja, the Port Harcourt.
Okay.
For instance, I want to paint a scenario first of all. If there are two landlords, for instance, landlord A and landlord B, landlord B has more infrastructure in his own house than landlord A, and over the years, landlord B keeps increasing his strength. Meanwhile, landlord B with more infrastructure. No, some persons rent house with furniture these days. It's not increasing his strength. So what do you think will happen in that situation? Because I'm saying this because people need to, they are shooting this rent thing. Yeah, I'm in Lagos currently. I know what I'm saying. They are shooting this rent thing. For instance, a house of 5 million today could be 10 million in 2 years' time. How? Meanwhile, people's income already increasing, people's salary will increase. So for me, my people are still, I don't know. It's a 50-50 thing. It has its own good side, it has its own bad side. The good side outweighs the bad side, no doubt. But can it be implemented? That's my own major concern. If it can be implemented, fine. You're protecting tenants' rights right now. It will also reduce homelessness because some persons who can afford rent, some persons have gone to lower part of the city to go and stay, lower part of the society to go and stay. Some persons I even know has located from these three major cities. They've gone to some other cities that is not of economic value like the Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. Are you getting me?
As a real estate person, Noah, you're also involved in some constructions and projects that are ongoing in some of the properties that you help manage and oversee, basically. And some of the concerns that landlords have raised is the fact that the cost of materials is going up so much. There's inflation in every aspect, basically. Now, looking at the 20% cap, what is going to be the effect on landlords, especially with the cost of materials? Also, when they make some of these renovations going on, do recall that the National Assembly said, for whatever reason, the highest that a landlord can increase the rent is 20%. Now, how does this affect the landlords, economically as well?
Okay, so many ways can affect the landlord include there will be neglect in maintenance of these properties right now. So some landlord will decide to neglect maintaining their property. That's one for a fact. If you're capping my rent, or what I'm giving my tenants by 20%, then you're telling me as a landlord, I'm not speaking for a landlord now, They will tell themselves, okay, there's no need fixing this for you because my rent has been at this particular peak, at this particular price for a long period of time. I will not want to maintain that property you're staying in. I will follow it. That's one. Two, it will reduce investment in housing. Trust me. Some developers who don't want to go into housing, like, you know, there's rental sales, there's rental, there's also sales. There's some developers I know that what they do, they just build for renting. You get. If this bill is put to law, when implemented, it will reduce investment in housing. There will be less housing. You can't even see, there will be less affordable housing you can rent because they will not want their own property that they built with the whole price of cement, iron rod, and everything, and workmanship, of course. You now expect them to cap it at a particular amount. It will reduce rent. It will reduce maintenance. I said it will reduce maintenance. It also reduce investment in housing. They will prefer not to build anymore for rent. They prefer to build and sell. Now, we're not talking about sale right now. We're talking about rent. Yeah. People can afford 20% or more. Now, expect how resales now be. It also affects, there will be challenge of, let's say, enforcement, which I also said earlier on. Enforcement challenge will be a major factor because if, for instance, it gets enforced, how will the landlord benefit from this? Because if you look at it, it's as if it's favoring the tenants more than the house owners. I don't know if I'm making a point.
No, this is just a 20% cap on increase.
Exactly.
Yes,
so
I know.
It's not as though the federal government is trying to decide how much the landlords will rent their houses for. It's just after you have fixed a particular amount and you want to eventually increase it, the increase should not be more than 20%. And you raised a point where you were talking about the fact that landlords will no longer want to renovate the properties or take care or maintain the property. Now, I will put it to you that in the FCT, they don't even do that. They don't even do that. You are renting a house in the FCT. You are painting the house afresh. You are fixing the POPs. Some of those houses don't even come with POPs. They come with the normal ceilings. So you now have to either do POPs or do PVCs in the house. They rent the houses almost next to nothing. I honestly wish I had a particular video because I've been house hunting in the last couple of months. I was looking for a 3-bed. Now this 3-bed, I was told that the 3-bed was 3.5 million naira. And I went to this house. I promise you, that house is worse than something that has been abandoned for a very long time. The ceilings are falling. The house is dirty, completely dirty. The cabinets are soaked. No renovation plan, nothing. Just rent out the house at 3.5 million naira. And that's if you are going to carry out renovation. If you will not carry out renovation, they have put a peg of at most 1 million naira on the renovation. You are going to pay 4.5 million naira. So regardless of whether the renovation is up to your taste or not, you are going to have to rent the house like that. What do you think? Because I don't think that putting a 20% peg on the increment is just enough. These landlords are becoming overbearing. I'm not joking. It's sounding like it's a personal, but I'm speaking from experience because I've seen it time and again. These landlords are becoming unnecessarily overbearing, where they don't take care of the house. They constantly increase the rent. What can be done, in your opinion, because you are in this sector and you develop as well, if I get that correctly, you develop, you broker, you sell, and all of that. So in your opinion, what can be done to checkmate the excesses of the landlords? Then we will talk about the tenants eventually. But what do you think can be done to checkmate their excesses?
What can be done? I think this industry for years now, and there's something I discovered. Once there's a willing buyer, there's always a willing seller. Or let me put it this way: once there's a willing seller, you always see a willing buyer. Trust me, that house you're thinking they should peg it for, it should not exceed 20%. Trust me, a landlord will increase it for 50%, and there'll be somebody willing to pay. Somebody will want to pay for that thing. So the whole thing boils down, because some landlord will tell you, price of school fees has increased. This house you're seeing is like my farm. It's like my retirement plan. So anything that I do, you can't control this thing. I'm not saying. They will tell you in your face that, see, if you're not renting, please leave. This house you're seeing, this property is like my own retirement plan. This is where I am from. So I decide what I want. Government is saying their own over there. We'll still talking about economy later on. If we discuss deeply, we'll enter Nigeria economy again, how bad Nigeria economy is, how price of things are increasing. Because landlord have bills to pay. Me, I'm on the side of the tenant if you look at it, because pegging it at 20%, you know, it's 20% is a good thing. If you look at it, it's a good thing. It will make everybody have good homes. But the landlord, do they listen? Just as you said, they don't. I'm telling you, I deal with them a lot. They don't listen. They will tell you, if you're not renting my house, if you're not to pay my rent, go, leave my house. They will give you a notice in less than 6 months of your next rent due. I don't know if you get my point. So the thing is, if government can make it, enforce it, not by just saying it, because if we're designed, this policy will protect tenants, no doubt. If you look at it one way or the other, it's protecting tenants, because if I'm earning, let's say, 300,000 in a month, and all of a sudden I've been paying rent of 700,000, you just come one day and said my rent is now 1.5. That's almost 100% increment. You get it will affect my income, it will affect my lifestyle, it will affect my way of life. I will have to reduce other things. I might not, my mind want to now go and stay in a very remote area, so I can be going to work from there. It will affect my health as a whole. And it's somebody's reality as we speak this morning. So the whole thing is, this landlord, they will not listen. I know what I'm saying, they will not listen.
Right. Now, if you look at the whole situation, you've talked about the landlords, the tenants. In fact, you made a scenario, you made an analogy saying, once there's a willing buyer, once there's a willing seller, there is a willing
There's
buyer.
always a willing buyer.
You know, which is some of the problems that we've seen happen, because we've seen situations where individuals wants to rent an apartment for a certain amount of money, and some other person comes on board to say, landlord, I'm going to pay you this amount of money. You see that it fluctuates now based on the fact that someone is offering to pay higher and all of that. And you've talked about implementation as it is. If you also look at the nation, different cities, you know, have we live differently in different cities. In Port Harcourt City, it is different. In Lagos, it is different. In Abuja, it is different. You mentioned Akure, it is different. Now, still talking about the landlords and how it affects them. Will it be fair, you know, for this cap to be national? You know, where in Port Harcourt City, it must be 20% maximum. In Lagos, 20% maximum. In Akure, it must be 20% maximum, regardless of the situation and the living conditions, you know, that varies within the states.
Yes, it should be national. It should be national. That way, it can easily be. I can easily hold my ground as a tenant and say, okay, this is what is obtainable in other states. It should be national, because if you don't make it national, if you make it a state thing, some landlord will override or use the opportunity to shoot their rent before. Because, for instance, let's say we want to do it by state, let Lagos and Abuja and Port Harcourt, for instance, just have 20%. You know what other landlords in other states will do? They will quickly increase their rent, so that by the time it gets to their states, they already balanced, they've already made excess gain. Because rent is paid once in a year. You get. So I think it should be national. That way it will affect everybody. Since we have a national minimum wage, of course, it should be national.
Okay. All right, Mr. Noah, my next question will be you trying to also help us explain the rationale behind the agency and the legal fee being 20%.
Okay.
Imagine that you are going to rent. I'm speaking again from experience.
Right.
Renting a house, this house is costing about 4.5 million naira. And aside the 4.5 million naira, the total package that I will pay for this house is 6.5 million naira, which means there's an extra 2 million naira. And this 2 million naira is agency and legal fee. Please, can you explain the rationale behind the agency and legal fee to me so that I can understand? And we
even forgot one actually. It's actually agency, legal, and caution.
Okay.
No,
you
caution.
the caution.
Caution. Yes. Okay. Caution. Who does the caution even go to?
Yes. Okay. That's the thing. The caution goes to the landlord.
Okay.
The legal goes to the landlord.
Okay.
From the best of my knowledge, and the agency. Now I'm in Lagos. I operate in Lagos. I can tell you for a fact. Do you know that landlords, most landlords, I won't say all, most landlords today, it's part of your agency fee? Go and ask. I'll leave it at that. Yes, landlord did not eat part of the agency fee. What they tell you is this, that I don't give 10%, I give out 5%. I'm telling you as a stakeholder right now, because that's this way I have been operating for years. So the rationale behind agency, legal, caution, I would say I met it, and it's still it's still existing. I don't even know if because trust me, it's terrible. Imagine trying to raise a rent of 3.5 million, and you still need to cover an extra 2 million for agency, which is 10%, 450, legal 10%, caution. And guess what? Most of the time, the landlords, they recycle this. I don't know if there's a way the MBA can come in right now. When it comes to legal, I discovered something. A lot of these landlords, they don't even use the right legal approach and give you your document. But sometimes I don't care. You just want to move in, rest their head, and continue with their life. If you check that paper they give to you as legal, they just recycle someone's stamp that they used maybe for other tenants some years back or some months ago. And it's wrong. It's actually wrong. If the MBA can look into this, because if, for instance, I'm a lawyer and you're using my name, my stamp over and over again on different things, by just photocopying, and I will have to come and fight for you. Because if you look at it, the landlords are the ones eating the legal fee. Yes, a lot of them, 100% of the legal fee goes to them. Addition to the rent. Caution. How many times do you even get your caution fee after leaving the property?
Leaving the property.
A lot of times, no tenant gets the caution fee.
No.
They don't. Sorry, my hands is shaking. I'm in the car. Sorry. So a lot of times they don't even get the caution fee after leaving the property. They'll tell you, you spoil this, I'll fix this. In fact, you might even forget it after living for 2-3 years, or you not taking the caution fee. So the agency fee, which is a 10%, goes to the agent. Sometimes they'll tell you 20. I've seen a situation on one of these property websites where the agency fee was stated for 25%, non-negotiable. Yeah. So these are the issues. Imagine agency fee alone is 25%. Whoever posted the property wrote it there. It's 25%. If you want to rent this house, you must pay 25% of the agency fee. Now imagine someone trying to cover extra money of 25% of your rent to pay agency fee. So these are the issues. Nigeria today is like everything just goes in Nigeria. Everything just goes. No policy, no. It's why I don't.
everyone do what they want. I see places like
Someone said maintaining law in a lawless country is not illegal. Something like that.
Honestly, because
everybody does what they like.
Yes, the person doing the right thing is the one looking like the odd man out.
Truly,
you know.
Exactly, that's my point right there. Yeah.
So imagine a landlord saying, you know what, I'm not going to do 20% agency and legal. I'm going to do 10%. Other agents will say you are spoiling business for us. Definitely. And then they compel that person to collect the house at all costs. Now, in places like Lagos State, the last time conversations about agency and legal fee came up, Lagos State pegged theirs to 5%. And they added a prosecution of about 2 years.
Yes, in prison.
2 years imprisonment and 2 million naira or 1 million naira fine to any agent that collects more than 5% for agency and legal fee. Now, oftentimes we have seen states like Lagos State championing some level of change that we expect to happen across board. How do you think that which happens in Lagos State, particularly in the housing sector, can be replicated in the FCT, in major cities, and even in the suburb areas?
The question should be the 5% that was announced. Was it implemented? That's the issue.
So we have an implementation problem.
That's the thing.
Yeah, the people still pay 10%. I remember that news early this year by the Lagos State House of Assembly. It wasn't implemented. As we speak, people still post it outrightly on social media everywhere. 10%. You're still paying 10% for your house you're renting. So it's the implementation thing you're talking about. If they can just enforce it by using their whatever, the Minister of Housing, let's enforce it. Let's start from Abuja, Lagos, and Port Harcourt. You see that state, you're sending, like, you're making them scared, because if they can do it in these major cities, which is like a blueprint to other states, of course it will work, but it's not working. I'll tell you for a fact, it's not working. The 5%, it didn't hold water. It did not.
Still talking about implementation, which of course, like you stated, is the main issue that we're having here in this part of the world.
Yeah.
We've seen tenants being evicted from their houses, in a very short time, and there are laws to say that at least the tenant should be given 6 months of notice before he or she has been evicted from their house, and we don't see these things happening so far. Seems like many Nigerians tenants now do not even know their rights, you know, when it comes to tenancy and all of that. And then we've talked about implementation for quite some time. Does it seem to you right now that even this 20% cap that the National Assembly is bringing on board, just like we've seen with the Lagos State National Assembly, you know, that they talked about the 5% and the implementation is not ongoing yet. Will this announcement just be on paper, you know, based on what you're seeing right now, or you see a possibility of this being implemented?
I think I wish it would be implemented. That's my wish. I want it to be implemented because it's affecting everybody. You might be saying, I have a house there. How about your siblings? How about your younger ones, for instance? Now, if my own humble suggestion is this, if they can have like a portal where if landlord increases your rents, report that landlord on a particular portal, stating your previous paid rent and what they are increasing it to, which is more than the 20%. Then they can now come and say, okay, so landlord, we're coming for you. So that's the best way to even go about this. Let them have like a portal. Whether it's Minister of Housing, I don't know who will be in charge, but let them have like a portal. So when the landlord increases their rent more than 20%, I, as a tenant, I can say, okay, my rent has been increased over 20%, which is now above the law. Which is what I paid so year. Last year I paid this. This is what my landlord wants me to pay. Make it very simple and user friendly. If they do it that way, you see that more persons. That's a way of implementation because now we have internet. It's an internet age. Someone can just stay in his home and report somebody. If they come for that landlord, once come to work, you can't give that guy a quick notice. So you're compelling the landlord to say, put your rent this way, peg it this way, allow this person pay for a period of time before you increase it again. Even if it's 5-10 years, it's okay. That's the only way they can implement this. Otherwise, it will just be another news.
Right. And I think he made a salient point there. I'm talking about even the timeline that you know a tenant should have before you increase the rent again. Yes. Because there's a possibility that after paying for 2 years,
exactly,
you know, and then you come up again to say let's increase for another 20. So that means you are just timing the whole situation.
Exactly what I was going to say.
And that again is still a problem because it is not this. You've not brought in the solution holistically. As
there should be a timeline. If you check that news, they didn't even include the timeline. Maybe I didn't read it. They didn't include the timeline. It should be like a period of, let's say, 5 years minimum. After 5 years, because this landlord they might want to outsmart the whole thing. They'll tell you, okay, I just increased. I'm increasing again. They might be doing that 20% every 2 years. So there should be a timeline, strong timeline, well-regulated one for that matter.
That's pretty much it. And you know, I just remember about this timeline. I was saying something here last week where it's important that these tenants also know their rights.
Exactly.
Imagine a landlord coming to say, oh, this is it. And only one tenant is saying, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. Every other tenant, because this part of the world we are in, human beings, we know how to get used to the wrong things easily.
True.
So if the landlord is saying, let's increase the rent, and the landlord is doing over 50% increment in the rent, and one person is saying, oh, I'm going to pay, I don't want landlord's trouble. That, you see, once one person pays, every other person will have to pay, because the landlord will now say, this is it, somebody else has paid, so what's stopping you from paying?
And
so
then they'll have
a
basis
if that
to
person paying has done, maybe that person that is paying has done a lot of renovation in the property.
Yes.
She can't imagine herself going to renovate a new property again.
Exactly.
And truly, that's where the problem is, because people are afraid that if I leave this particular house that I'm staying now, I have to go through the process of house hunting
agency again, legal again.
So all of the stress on the household, many persons now resolve to saying, well, if not just to pay this increase, let us pay it and then we'll move along. But that is still a problem, you know. Go on.
Yes, and you know, recently, not even recently, one thing that the people, the tenants now, are now responding to the actions of the landlord with is, I put up, in the place where I rent, this guy does not put kitchen cabinet. You put kitchen cabinets, you put literally everything yourself. So when these tenants are vacating the property, they destroy everything.
Or they sell it off.
They destroy it. Destroy the walls, destroy the cabinets, destroy the ceilings, everything, and the landlord rents the house like that again. Another person comes and renovates. It's just a rat race. But we're already past half the hour. Let's go on the short break. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, Mr. Noah. Let's go on a very short break, and when we get back, we'll keep up this conversation because we have a lot of questions to ask you still. All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's still Rapid Done right here on Rapid TV. And at the 9 o'clock conversation, we're having conversation centered around the cap of 20% that the House of Rep has put on the increment of rent. And to have that conversation with us today, we have had the pleasure of conversing with Mr. Noah Egbenedium. He is the MD CEO of Overt Properties. Thank you so much, Mr. Noah.
Thank you. It's in Negbedion again.
In Negbedium, okay. I hope that Overt Properties will not catch them in this, because we'll drag them all.
Very well.
We will drag them all. All right. Now let's go on to the other part of the conversation, which is about tenants. Now we have seen that the reason some of the landlords will make as an excuse as to why they don't give out their properties will be because of tenants and how the houses are being mismanaged. While I understand that the increment of the rent it's exorbitant and sometimes it's unreasonable, because imagine renting a house at 500,000, which is what you can afford at this time, and pay the rent 1 year later, the house is ₦1 million, and your income has not increased. It's exorbitant. While I understand that, I also understand that there are tenants that do not know how to manage the property of landlords. Hence, the caution fee that is being put there. So you pay the caution fee. If you destroy anything, that money will be used to fix up the house while you are gone. How can there be a healthy balance between the rights of the landlord and the rights of the tenant? So we are considering the tenants also, but we are also considering the landlord. How can we create a healthy balance between the both?
Healthy balance will come from it's all about understanding. For me personally, when you have this good upbringing, for instance, you don't want to spoil something intentionally in the house that you're giving to stay, because the house you stay, someone stayed there before you came. Imagine the person made it to work by you. So imagine you live in the house and want to spoil it for the next occupant. So once there is that relationship between you and your landlord, but most of the times why people do that is because maybe in a property the landlord doesn't stay there. You see this, there's always that rift of, let's take care of this property the way we like, and some landlord might not find it funny. So that's why they always tell you, have discussion fee paid before you come into their property. So the only thing that can happen in this situation is to have that good relationship. If you're a good person, you're a good person. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if I'm living in a house and it's not my house, I have to take care of it for myself. I don't have to say, oh, because landlord doesn't stay here or that doesn't belong to me, I have to mess up the whole place. No, a landlord, even me, if you build your house, you don't like the way some tenants behave. Seriously, they behave so rash. That word. They behave so rash. If it's not a good thing, that's why some person will tell you, I don't want tenants to have anymore. Let me just leave the house. Stress of what tenants make them go through. You understand? So that's just it.
Okay.
Now, if you look at some concerns again of some investors, they fear that this rent cap is going to reduce the market value or the property value as it is. As someone who is a key player in the real estate industry, what would be your advice to these individuals with this thought?
How to reduce the market value.
That's what some persons are. That's some concerns, out there, that the moment that they cap the rent, it's going to also reduce the value of the property. Remember, we're talking about maintenance and all of that, right? Most of these landlords or developers might not want to go, forward to the best of material, using the best of materials rather, to either renovate the house or even build new houses, that they are planning on building.
Exactly. Sorry, that's why you're right. That's why I said earlier that it reduce housing. New housing. Some investors don't want to bid for rent anymore. Remember, I said that earlier.
Yes,
so investors don't want to bid for rent anymore. They want to build and sell. That way, people looking for rent in the city might find it difficult to get a house to stay. Yeah, and they will now start looking for far distance place, maybe different from where they work. Imagine you remote every day, 4 hours to work, to and fro work, and to affect your health. Now, another thing again too, all these things we do, it will also cause some kind of tenant to start looking for house in a place where they can never see house. Now remember, yes, you can never see house in some places, and you'll be looking for house because now let's imagine government house some low
housing scheme, for instance, the member will grow up with some low housing scheme, but it's no longer. How many low housing schemes do you talk about today? No, not, the real estate developers, like, they've taken everything. Government no longer build low house scheme, for instance. If they can build low house scheme, of course, they can even decide to peg it at 10% if they do what they want. But there's no housing scheme.
Okay. Since you have made mention of housing scheme, now Nigeria's housing deficit is such a critical issue because we see that it is estimated to be between 20 to 28 million units, and that it will require an estimated 21 trillion naira to address the housing deficit in Nigeria. So it's such a huge gap that we currently are experiencing in the housing sector. In your opinion, and as someone who happens to be, like Victor would say, a stakeholder or a key player in the housing sector, how do you think that this gap can be bridged?
It can only be bridged if we can develop new cities.
New cities?
Yes, new cities should be developed. There are some, Nigeria is blessed with vast land, like there are lands in Nigeria that have not been exploited. Let's leave the Lagos, let's leave the Abuja, let's leave the Port Harcourt. Now, even in this city I mentioned, there are some parts of these cities that have not been exploited. If we can have like businesses springing up in these places, let's take, for instance, I stay in Lagos now, and what Dangote refinery did in where he built his refinery, will open business around the area, so people can now see reason of living there. So investors need to go to
live close to a refinery, though.
That's another thing.
Yes, it must. Yes, it's safe. It's safe. LMA refinery, people live close to LMA refinery.
Yeah, in Port Harcourt, really.
Yeah, in Port Harcourt. You mustn't live close to the. You must live around. At least do your business around. Let's say 5 minutes, 10 minutes drive to the refinery. That's what I mean. Because if you look at it this way, Lekki, for instance, as we speak, there's some price you can't see for a rented house in Lekki, even if it's a mini flat. You can never see it for a particular price. So what if somebody that has a job in Lekki, for instance, and he needs a house, he will not see. Will he be stranded? Will he sleep under the beach? So, but if they have good, if new cities have been developed and transport system, if you have a good transit system in Nigeria, these two things will solve it.
All right.
Good cities develop and good transport system. With these two, we don't longer see trains. Trains should connect cities. Trains should connect, even in a state that should be trained in different points. I don't know if you get my point. So if they can have new cities and good transportation system, the rest will settle itself.
All right.
It's not about trying to go and build in an already developed area.
Areas.
No, nobody will give you the land for free.
Nobody
will give the land. So you have to develop new cities and build new transport systems so we can commute very well.
Okay.
All right, Noah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Noah Enagbedion. Thank you so much. We really appreciate, the conversations that we've had here this morning concerning the housing situation in Nigeria. Yes, enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. It's been quite a robust conversation because the more you talk about it, the more you realize the gap that is in the housing sector.
Right.
Particularly here in Nigeria. I know many times you see skits, you see where people make skits about renting a manhole. I don't know if you have seen that guy on social media. He goes on and on the streets and there's a manhole in front of him and he says, this is a self-contained here in Garimpa, Nigeria. This is going for like 1 million. That's a joke. We joke about it, but that's gradually becoming the reality. So imagine a house. Recently, when I was speaking about this housing deficit and the whole issue surrounding the housing sector, I was speaking to a friend and she said, I rented a Sefcon apartment and I was able to maximize the space for the Sefcon apartment. I just moved to a new city. I maximized the space. I was able to do a proper demarcation, so I have like a little bit of waiting area, and then the room is different. So she did a door demarcation. Everything was by her. By the time she left the house, the landlord rented that place as a 1-bedroom flat.
So that's the greed of some
Right,
landlords.
I'm not joking. The landlord rented the place that somebody else was able to demarcate for their own use. Rented it as a 1-bedroom flat. For how much? 1.5 million. That's the main rent. Total package 1.8 million.
Crazy. Now, who's taking the profit? The landlord. who did the renovation?
The tenant.
So imagine if the tenant actually destroyed that particular renovation that she did in that particular building. He loses that, or will you go back to saying, well, I like this concept, let's make it work again? We have greedy landlords in this part of the country.
Very greedy.
And that's where the big problem even starts from. Landlords that are not willing to pay attention to the building. All they care about is the money that you're going to pay them. The place I moved into, I told you the story, practically everything, you know, from scratch to finish. I had to renovate everything there. You have your own experience. I have a friend of mine who was here before me, renovated the entire, in fact, most of the time when I visit him, I say, bros, this has to go, and go where they go if you move from this place. Because
you just have to make it comfortable enough for you to stay.
That's the thing, because you don't want to stay in the place where you're uncomfortable, right? And when landlords continually pay deaf ears to the things that matter, which is renovation, making their properties, you know, livable, and they leave all of that, they concentrate on making more money for themselves, forgetting that we're all citizens of this nation. You have your economic challenges, we have ours. There should be a way that we strike a balance, and that's why for me I like the concept that the National Assembly is coming with. But just like Noah said, the implementation is the key thing, because many times we have good policies here, right? But implementing these policies becomes a problem. What are they going to do to ensure that all of these policies, especially when it concerns housing, you know, is being implemented carefully? You
know, my problem is not just the fact that implementation is a problem. This policy has a loophole, and if you look at it critically, just like we discussed with Noah, there is a possibility of landlords to increase their house rent every 2 years. Every year, as a matter of fact.
Truly.
That's because they would want to catch up with the profit that they have lost from the 20% that the house has pegged on. So there needs to be like a timeline. The house rent increment should not be more than 20% and should not be increased in less than 3 years. House rent in Nigeria now should be increased after 3 years. You see, we don't have very strong policies regarding rentals of housing here in Nigeria.
Right.
In different parts of the world, and particularly in the United Kingdom and the United States of America, when your house has mold in it, it is not fit for any human being to live in it. But here in Nigeria, this house, it becomes a normal thing. So when you are talking about it, someone say, hey, that's a normal problem, and that's a normal thing.
It did my house too. You understand that kind of scenario?
Everybody is falling sick. Everyone is suffering from, some people are in and out of the hospital most times, and they don't even realize that the reason that they're in and out of the hospital is because of things like this. So no feasibility studies is being carried out on the house. Nobody checks whether or not this house is fit for living. Nobody checks the environment. People just build houses how they like. Because if people are actually going to be, you know, checked, some houses will not be built the way they are built.
Surely.
Imagine building a house in a waterlogged area. There are materials that can be used to cover the foundation of the house, so that the water from the foundation of the house does not affect the building.
Right.
So the fact that we are seeing cold and all of those things destroying the walls of the house obviously means there's something wrong with the foundation.
Exactly.
Because it should have been properly constructed, so much so that the water from the foundation does not get up to the building. But nobody checks this thing. So I think that just coming to put a peg on the 20,000, which is a good thing, is a step in the right direction, which means that the government is now interested in addressing the concerns with housing. Because there's a housing deficit, yes, but we need to also make sure that the ones that we are currently living in is hazard free.
That's right.
So the policy is a bit haphazard. It's just dropping just a rock in the center of an ocean and expecting it to save someone who is about to drown in the middle of the ocean.
More like just a splash.
Do you understand? It's just a splash. So there are other things that needs to be addressed before even addressing things like this. The cap on the rent. Are the houses safe enough for people to live in? Are these houses in areas that are safe enough or habitable to humans? These are conversations that we need to have.
And if you pick up on what some of the things that Noah said, talking about developing new cities, again, in my experience in Lagos, people rush some of these houses, and based on the fact that they are rushing to get the accommodation, maybe some of them, the house is close to their workplace, or this is where they've seen a house to rent. So they'll just quickly rush, pay for it, so that they can have a roof over their head. Now, talking about safety, people are just so desperate to have a roof over their head that they forget or neglect the concept of safety.
Yeah.
Why? Because I think we've not really had a lot of orientation when it comes to home safety in this part of the world. Now, before I left one of the areas I was staying in Lagos State, we saw a new building. It was almost like an L shape, which and before they finish building that house, lots of persons have already paid for the rent of their house.
Yes.
So imagine that these guys started their house. They didn't pay so much attention to the building of the house because they needed to rush to meet up with the timeline of the people that have already paid them for the rent.
Yes.
And so these individuals will still move into that particular apartment, and some of these houses begin to see cracks on the wall.
Do you see a trend recently in Lagos where people just sit in their houses and the POP collapse?
It happens.
It has been happening consistently. I think the last one was that of Nkechi Blessing, who had, I think she was on set. One of all those celebrities was on set, came back and found out that the POP had already fallen in the sitting room.
Imagine that.
We had a case, that same Lagos, where a GP tank fell on a building and collapsed on someone who was sleeping in her room, and the person eventually died. There's so many things that we need to pay attention to in this part of the world. Yesterday, I saw a video of an accident here in the FCT where people were in a vehicle, and all of a sudden it just entered into Millennium Park, and the people they had to thank God for people who were around. They had to rush them out of the vehicle, and the vehicle caught fire almost immediately. I don't know if those people made it, but you see, my concern is that nobody there knew how to do CPR.
Imagine that. And these are basic knowledge that we need to have as a people.
So nobody there knew how to do CPR. Everyone there just drew them out of the vehicle, dumped them on the ground. Nobody had any knowledge on first aid treatment that should be done. So this reformation we're talking about is not just in the housing sector. It should be in the housing sector, educational sector, in the health sector. There should be a total overhauling. Now the president has done an overhauling in the military sector. So we should see that his hand touches other areas as well, so that we are not just looking at a particular area and forgetting that other parts of the nation exist that need change.
Very true. You know.
And I think this brings us to the end of the conversation for today. Once again, thanks to Noah for helping us dissect that conversation in such a short time. And of course, to remind you that we are active across social media platforms. It is at Rapid TV on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Twitter, which is now X. On YouTube, this will be uploaded so you can rewatch and share to friends and family as well at Official Rapid TV. Remember, we have a website that allows you join all of our programs live here in the studio at www.rbnradiotv.com. I've had an absolutely fantastic Monday hanging out with you right here on Rapid Dawn. And once again, my name is Martha Alu.
And I am Victor. Okay, see you tomorrow.